Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 116 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast. Essential Restaurant KPIs, how to measure them, and how to influence them.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
So everyone, we've got a little bit of a tricky task today. What I'm going to try and do over the next couple of episodes is I'm going to take something that's actually a lot of people find really boring, something like the KPIs for your business, and I'm going to turn it into something fun and exciting. Because I think it is fun and exciting when you can actually get some data about the business that you run and then look at the ways that you can improve those metrics. So KPIs. Key performance indicators. These are going to be the metrics that you are measuring or should be measuring or maybe haven't even thought of. We see this quite a bit in a lot of the smaller end restaurants. There'll be a whole heap of things that people have never really thought about their business. They had never thought of looking at their business as a set of numbers and thinking, wow, now I've got some levers that I can pull to make the business a lot more profitable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into a series of areas. So we're going to look at customers, we're going to look at team, front of house, kitchen, and finance metrics. Nothing too rocket sciencey around this. But before we get into the actual metrics themselves, I want to caveat with a couple of things. Firstly, you don't need to be tracking all of these. The KPIs that you're looking at, really, there's two things before you start looking at the KPI that you're going to focus on, because in our business, there's a whole heap of metrics that we track, but there are some that we focus on relentlessly. And here's the big news, they actually change over time. So we had a time a couple of years ago when it was taking a long time for our support team to get back to people. So that was a really big hot topic item. We went through, we amended a whole heap of processes. We put a lot of information in. We improved our onboarding for the team as new team members joined the team as we grew. And that number got a lot lower. And so now I'll look at it maybe twice a month. We might mention it in a management meeting once a month or even once a quarter. It's not really that big a deal. We've got bigger fish to fry. There are other things as we move the company forward that are really important for it. So the metrics are going to change over time. The KPIs that you're going to pick, they need to be measured, ideally easily generated. I don't think you should be out there employing someone specifically to be measuring and managing these KPIs. This should be a part of your business as usual type thing. And this is where a bit of the knack comes into managing what KPIs it is that you're going to be tracking. You want to have them clearly defined so that there's no interpretation or guesswork in how it is that you're going to generate these numbers or what they mean. Depending on your management style, I think that they should be communicated with everyone. One of our 4 key values is open and honest communication. Metrics, your KPIs, your numbers, that's a very, very clear piece of communication, and I like to share it with everyone, because if someone's struggling with a metric, there might be someone else in the team who's going to be able to help them with it. And on top of that, everyone needs to know when someone's crushing their metric or being crushed by their metric. So I think it's really good to communicate it openly and honestly. For anyone who's in our local neighborhood, you're welcome to drop in and have a look at what it is that we do with KPIs. KPIs are so important to us. We actually have 8 big monitors on the wall so that we can see data that is generated, and all of this data is generated automatically for us, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously, our businesses are a little bit different. Having said that, there is a lot of work that can be done for most restaurants in getting some really cool metrics out there and in front of everyone. One of the things that's really cool about my business is that I've got a team of developers, and that means that every time I come up with some sort of crazy KPI that I want to be looking at, we can get that information. We can get it put in front of everyone in the team. And it's usually pretty easy to do that. However, there's one thing that I think is a really big draw card for a lot of businesses out there, and that is Microsoft Power BI. So what Power BI is, the BI stands for business intelligence, is that it's a pretty cool set of tools that allows you to go out into things like maybe your POS system and pull information and display it in graphs. And so some of the things that we do are actually displayed in Microsoft Power BI. So we can pull information out and we can look at it to see, oh yes, this is the way that it's trending over time. Really cool. We have some of that stuff up on our monitors. We have real-time traffic data, real-time transaction data for our customers. You know, if they're using Forbes, the free online restaurant booking system, I like to know what we've done in the last 24 hours as far as bookings go. I like to know what we've done orders-wise, because you can see the people who are really the movers and shakers when it comes to the free online restaurant booking system. We can see how much money they've saved, how it's growing, all of those sort of things. It's about delving into that information and being able to provide it to everyone in the team in a way that's useful for them. Now, the next thing is, as we go through these metrics, the metrics need to be placed in the context of your business plan. Now, obviously, you've got a financial business plan that details all of the things that you should be doing, like the number of customers per day and all of that sort of stuff. I hope you've got that. You should have that. And you want to reference that to where you are now. So I find it really interesting. We talk to some restaurants that are often on death's door. They are like 3 weeks away from closing. And I think it's very difficult to be able to turn that kind of business around because there's been ongoing problems for a significant amount of time. We work with a lot of restaurants where they say, you know what, we're turning over $500,000 and we're losing $1,000 or $2,000 a month on average. You know what? That's pretty easy to turn around. You only need to pick a couple of metrics and work on improving them, and you're going to make a change. We also work with restaurants they're making good money every month, but they come to us and say, these are the areas that we want to improve in. What is it that we can do to improve this? And it's like, yeah, okay, this is cool. So we've now got a baseline. We're operating from a pretty cool baseline because, you know, it's above the break-even point. We just want to improve the amount of money that the business is making. So you've got to be thinking about where you are and where you want to be when you're thinking about these metrics. Now, the next thing that you want to think about is how easy is it going to be for me to collect this data? So if you're operating cash only without cash register, that's going to be pretty tricky. You know, it's going to be difficult to do that. If you've got a U-Butte POS system, which has got an open API, a lot easier to be able to do that. If it's got inbuilt reporting, even easier. The one thing that I would say, though, is that I want you to think about each and every one of these KPIs. And you're going to say, oh, you know, I can't imagine how I would find that data. How am I going to be able to measure it? Because ideally, you know, there's an old business saying, what gets measured gets managed. Having said that, though, I have seen people who have a really good process around a KPI that they don't measure. So, for instance, you might be looking at the average transaction size. And so what you might do is you might think what we want to do is we want to make sure that everyone is thinking about a beverage sale. So when we induct a new employee, we're going to go through our beverage list and we're going to provide them with some training in it so that they feel empowered to be able to do that. And on top of that, we are going to give them a script that they can use, and we're going to do some work around the cross sell. So if they're going to order this, you know, if they're going to order the steak, would you like a Shiraz? If they're going to order this, would they like a pre-dinner cocktail? All of those sort of things, all of those little tiny things. Now, you may never actually measure that, but if anecdotally you see that you are doing more cocktail sales as a pre-dinner drink and selling more bottles of Shiraz, then maybe, just maybe, you've done. Obviously, it's a lot better if you measure it, but if it's going to be difficult for you to measure that sort of stuff in a granular level, then that's fine too. Putting the processes in place that are going to help with the KPI, even though you don't measure it, that can be a powerful part of increasing the profitability of your restaurant. Now, last thing to consider is how well do you know your customers? How well do you know your business? Because these KPIs, they're just a measure. And I have seen issues created where people just go completely berserk with trying to increase a KPI. So I'll give you a really, really, really good example. No, actually, I'll give you two. So the first one was, one of the things we're going to look at is turnover. And this was a business that employed a lot of young people, and they were leaving after about 18 months. And what they were doing is they were actually sacking managers because of the fact that they were only retaining people 18 months. Then they had to think about it, and they thought the kind of people that they were hiring, that was probably the best that they were going to get. And so they were sacking experienced managers. They were losing people who were really quite important to the company because of the fact that they had a KPI that they wanted to improve, which was unrealistic. They just weren't going to be able to keep their people longer than 18 months, given the kind of work it was and where they were working and a few other factors. It was going to be very difficult to improve that, and they didn't take that into account. Another example is the amount of revenue per seat. So what you might be doing is you might be trying to put in an upsell process. It might get to the point where you're measuring each person for the amount of upsell products that they've got on a daily basis, and you might get to the point where they're really, really aggressive because they know that that's the only thing that you really care about, which is great, apart from the fact that customers then feel like they are being sold once, twice, 3 times, and it's very aggressive in the way that the selling's been done. And I've seen that where customers have refused to go back. And so the metric of average revenue per seat, that goes up. The number of repeat customers goes down. And there was a case where a business actually went they closed the doors, and one of the big reasons was that the front of house staff were being way too aggressive in their upsell and cross-sell opportunities, that people felt like that they were just in some sort of bizarre market where they were being sold to all the time, and that wasn't the experience that they were coming for, and that's why they didn't go back. Sad times. So you've got to be thinking, you've always got to put these metrics into the context of your business, your customers, and what it is that you're trying to achieve. A lot of these KPIs are predicated around some part of a very simple equation that I find really, really helpful and useful when dealing with business profitability, and that is customers multiplied by transactions multiplied by the amount per transaction equals your revenue, and revenue multiplied by your margin equals your profit. So what we're going to do is we will start off with something nice and simple: transactions. Most people are going to have access to their transactions per day. Whether you pull this out of your POS system or whether it's coming out of a cash register, you should get some sort of indication to the number of transactions per day. So right after the number of transactions per day, you should be looking at your revenue per day. You know, how much money is coming in the door every day. That's a pretty cool metric that you want to be thinking about. Now, run with those two, revenue and the number of transactions, and then you're going to get the average revenue per transaction. That's a cool metric. Now, depending on how you're collecting this data, depends on the granularity that you can get with it. I know I have spoken to restaurant owners who really are that far behind as far as financial literacy and processes that they're tracking this information on a weekly basis. That is way too loose for trying to run a business, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So when you're looking at daily revenue, you can put that into an Excel spreadsheet and you might run a graph of it and you'll see a cyclical wave, I'm pretty sure. Probably Monday's closed, Tuesday's pretty low, and then you're getting up into, the peak of Friday and Saturday, depending on how the cards fall for you in your restaurant. Sunday, strong day, not as strong as Friday and Saturday, and then you got your Monday off. So the interesting thing is, if you're doing that weekly, all you're seeing is one big number, and you can say that you had a down week. Well, why was it down? What parts of it were down? You're not getting any of that ability to look in and say, well, it was quite wet, or the weather was awful, or it was too hot, or there was a sports carnival on, or any of those sort of things. So you're not getting that sort of information. The other thing is, as we look at that data, I want you to think about it. Have a think about it. So I was talking to a restaurant owner, and I know I've mentioned him on the podcast before. He is open on Monday and closed on Tuesday. He has Tuesday as his day off. Now, the thinking behind that, well, it's pretty simple really, but really clever. Most restaurants are closed on Monday because not many people are going out on a Monday night. Probably the least number of people go out on a Monday night. But there are some people who want to go out on a Monday night. They need to go out on a Monday night. And for those people, it's hard to find a place that's open on a Monday night. He's open. So he is competing for a few customers, but there is very, very little competition. So he gets most of them. His Monday is significantly better than his Wednesday. He's closed on Tuesday. Tuesday, every restaurant's open. There's probably not that many more people who are looking for a restaurant on a Tuesday night than there are on a Monday night. So he's got a cracking Monday, closed on Tuesday. Then he rolls into a Wednesday when you're starting to see that little bit of a pickup. When you start looking at the data, when you start analysing it and creating KPIs out of that, then you can start to take action to start modifying it. Does that kind of make sense? Now, if you've got the ability to, it's even better to be more granular with it and go for revenue per hour. Revenue per hour for most businesses, I think, is probably where you want to be at. Because as we talked about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're very different battles and there's ways that you can influence them. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, very different battles there, different ways that you can influence each and every one of those hours. So, the first podcast that we did was how to make a busy Tuesday night. Well, the first thing you can do is close on Tuesday, open on a Monday. But Tuesday night, if you're open, that's going to be the night that you're going to do your wine pairing. That's going to be the night where you're going to have your special cocktail list. You're going to do all of your joint marketing with other vendors. You might have your meat supplier come in to talk about why the best way to cook a steak. You're going to serve up steak cooked 5 different ways. You're going to pair it with Shirazes, all of that sort of stuff. Tuesday night's going to be your event night. The other weeknights, they're the ones where you're going to be looking for, what else is going on. Are you going to run an offer with this local cinema? Are you going to have a special night? Are you going to do some sort of loss leader offer? Plenty of things that you can think about. Are you doing that across the day? And this is one of the things that we've talked about, pubs and clubs, how you're going to do that. 8 o'clock, you've got people on their way to work. They're going to be coming in for a coffee, or they might come in for breakfast. From 9 till 10, you've got the mums and dads who've just dropped the kids off. They might be coming in to catch up with the girls. So there's a coffee and a donut, coffee and a croissant type offer there that can work. Then you've got your brunch crowd. What is it that you're doing to drive the brunch crowd? Your lunch offers. Do you have a special tradie offer that's pick up, very quick to go? Are you advertising that? Rolling into brunch, pre-picking up the kids from the school. Who else is there that you can try and get that offer in there? I've seen places with a strong takeout business where, from 3 till 4, they'll sell their lunch gear at, 25% off or 50% off just to try and clear it. That can be actually really quite busy. They're moving some of their demand into a later time of the day, decreasing the lines. That's why they're actually really quite busy. And of course, they're extracting more customers each day from that. Then you're going to roll into your early happy hour. What is it you've got to drag people in as they're leaving from work at 5 o'clock? What is there that you can get them to do? Go straight into your restaurant to have your happy hour offer. Doesn't need to be beverage related. Ideally going to be things that are really easy for the kitchen to prepare because they should be in there doing prep for a busy night. Obviously, getting the happy hour people in makes the place look busy, and then you're setting yourself up for a really strong ability to capture the walk-in traffic because the place is going to be full. If it's full, that means that it's popular. That's where the locals eat. That's the restaurant where I want to eat. That's how you build that night early, and because your first customer is often the hardest one to get in. Revenue per hour is going to give you an insight into that. Now, the next one I think is a really interesting one, and that is customer feedback. Too many times, customers' voices aren't heard. People most business owners don't want to hear anything bad about their business. I think that it's absolutely fundamental to be getting feedback. And I always talk to our team, I'm not really interested in hearing good stuff. I expect to hear that. I'm much, much, much more interested to hear when a customer has been disappointed, because what is it that's happened there? Do we have someone in the team who has a skills deficit? Is there a knowledge deficit? Is there something that we should be training them up in? Do we have someone on the team who probably shouldn't be on the team? I mean, that happens in everyone's team from time to time, and you need to know that as quickly as possible so that you can get rid of that person, so that you've got the team looking after the customers in the way that you would look after the customers. That is super important. Is there an issue with the process? Is it just really good feedback? Oh, I didn't like that burger. That burger doesn't taste very nice. I don't like that burger. If you hear that, in growing numbers of occasions, then maybe people's tastes are changing. Maybe there's something going on in the kitchen. Maybe there's something you need to look at. Maybe that burger should be coming off the menu. Without hearing that, without going out and fighting for that information, you're never going to know if there is a problem with the burger. And you will see a decrease in the number of customers coming in each day, the number of transactions every day, because you've got a crappy burger on the menu. Fight for that information, look for the customer feedback, track it so that you can see the trends. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good was the restaurant? Obviously, we could do probably an entire podcast on how to get decent feedback. I like a couple of, quick metrics. How likely are you to recommend our restaurant? And the other thing is just a note section. Anything to add? Yeah, the burger tasted awful. That's good to know. And as you get more and more feedback, you can start to see the trends. You can start to see the change in people's tastes. You can start to see the staff members who are performing badly or performing really well. That's what you hope to be hearing. And it enables you to much better craft an experience that is going to make people want to come back, if that's part of your business plan. Now, on from that is repeat customers. If the customers are getting a great experience and you're providing great value and great food, then realistically, you should be expecting them to come back. So one of the metrics that you want to be looking at is the number of repeat customers and how often those customers are coming back. Now, this is one of the things that's really quite easy to do if you are doing things like using a booking system or using an online ordering system where you've got access to that kind of information. Some POS systems will actually do it by credit card as well, so you can infer that kind of information. That's pretty cool. But one thing that we've done particularly with Frollo, and I think that this is a really, really cool ability in Frollo, is the restaurant loyalty graph. So every time a customer comes in, we check to see if there's been an order against that email address before. And if there has, then they go into a different pile. They're the people who've ordered twice, 3 times. And looking at some of our customers who've been using it for a little while, they have multiple customers who have ordered from them 20 times. And I think that is so powerful. Not only do you know on an individual customer basis the number of times that they've ordered from them, but you can see how many of those customers are moving to the right in the customer loyalty graph. So there are restaurants out there that have more than 40% of their customers as repeat customers. I'm looking at one of our customers at the moment at their data, and it's really quite interesting. So when you look at their customer data, 69% of their customers have only ordered from them one time. Having said that, 39% of their orders, single orders to a person who's only ordered from them one time. So that other 60% of orders have gone to their repeat customers. So 60% of their orders go to repeat customers. That's a really, really good number, I think. And you can see from them, multiple customers ordering 21 times or more. That's a really big result. And it infers that the customers are really happy with what it is that you're giving them. They're happy with the food, they're happy with the value. And now, the thing that you want to do is you want to take that as a baseline, because it could be good, it could be bad. One of the things that we talk a lot about with customers is you have to look at that metric in isolation from every other restaurants, because of the fact that the demographics, this is a metric that fundamentally changes very quickly with a change in demographics. So we have some restaurants where only 10% of the orders will be a repeat order. And you think, well, their food mustn't be very good. Well, no, they're actually in a tourist area. So they have a lot of people coming in, and then they'll order once. You're unlikely to order 2 or 3 times if you're staying in a place for 3 or 4 days. So they get that one order, and then that customer goes. Very hard for them to order again because they've probably flown interstate. Having said that, I've seen people with numbers a lot better than that, and you think, is there something wrong with the food here because there's not a lot of competition in your area? I think we probably need to be looking at the quality of the food. Even though they do have quite a few repeat customers, you think, I've got a gut feeling that they could be getting more there. And the easy way to influence this metric is, of course, so obviously the food's got to be epic, the value's got to be there, the experience that you create's got to be there. Once you've done all of those things, then obviously your email marketing is the no-brainer for that. For online ordering, obviously a loyalty discount. Frollo's got that built in. Really makes it easy to get those customers coming back, because every time they place an order, congratulations, this is your first order. You've scored yourself an $8 loyalty credit. You only need to order 7 times more to be able to redeem your loyalty credit. And every time they order from you, that number goes up because they've ordered more times. It's calculated automatically for you. This is one of those metrics that I think is really cool to measure because of the fact that the information is there. It's already there. You've just got to go in and have a look at it, sort of work out what it is, and then look at ways of influencing it, whether that's, getting your delivery drivers to talk to them about it. It's interesting. So we ordered yesterday from a restaurant that uses Frollo, and I was quite excited when the delivery driver said, "We haven't seen you for a while." Now, not because there's anything wrong with their food, it's just the fact that we've been away for a little while. I've been out and about traveling, spent some time in New Guinea and in Taiwan, which was super epic. How good is Taiwanese street food? Completely epic. And some really interesting stories that we'll be talking about with that a bit later. But gives you an idea about the kind of things that you could be doing. These guys obviously know who their repeat customers are, and you feel a little bit special when it's like, hey, we haven't seen you for a little while. That's what you should be doing. And I know if you using one of the third-party aggregators, a lot of the time you don't get that information. That's because they're not your customer, that they're their customers, and you're just being used for order fulfillment. And I think that that's a bit of madness, but we won't go on and on and on about that like I often do. So these are the customer KPIs. We've looked at transactions per day, revenue per day, average revenue per transaction, customers per day, transaction size, repeat customers, and customer feedback. A lot of those the revenue per day, the revenue per hour, one of the things that's really important about that is, even if you're not going to do anything to influence it, the thing that makes it really useful to know is that you can then marry the revenue per hour up with your labor cost per hour, the wages per hour. That's something that you can be starting to think about, so that you can start marrying up the wages with when you've got a lot of people in there, and that is going to allow you to decrease the wages as a percentage of overall sales. That is another key metric that we're going to be talking about in the next episode. So have a think about the metrics, have a think about the data you've got in your business and see how you can analyze it, the ratios that you can create with it, and how you're going to get them out in front of the team, the processes that you can change so that you can make your restaurant just that little bit more profitable, or maybe a lot more profitable, or God forbid, profitable for the first month in the last 24 months. Hopefully you're not in that boat. Either way, if you need any help, feel free to reach out to us. Hit me up on LinkedIn, having lots of great conversations on LinkedIn, Facebook. We do a little bit of Twitter, not too much. Or you could do it old school and send us an email, morecustomers@marketingforrestaurants.com. That's about it for us. You have a glorious week. Bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.